Well, hey everybody, my name is Jared Malat. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Cleese, and this is the Coltist season 2. This would be episode 7.
Yeah, Matt Gay episode perhaps
The
for
Mac.
for a kicker. Yeah,
Oh man, the as far as this episode, I was thinking about because last time we did, let's talk about Anthony Richardson, right? Yeah,
yeah,
about Anthony Richardson. Um, how about this Colts defense?
yeah. Not get like we went from being so hyped up about this team to like saying, "Hey, we might not, perhaps we might not win another football game at all this year. Like we might lose out, perhaps
Mhm.
one or two wins here and there, but this season's not looking all too bright." So yeah, just not a good look. Not definitely not a good look these past 2 weeks against the Browns and against the Saints today.
Yeah.
Shout out to I hate to scapegoat a player, especially one who probably is better served playing special teams. He's not a cornerback. Tony Brown, I believe, it was put on full display today that hey, he's not a starting cornerback. He's a great special teams guy. He's not a cornerback. So probably don't put him in there.
Yeah, well, I think they're probably really thin to put Tony Brown out
Yeah.
there, right? Is that whole thing. Of course, Colts lost today to the Saints. Final score, something up there, 38-27. Yeah,
Yeah.
38-27. And then
30,
interesting
yeah.
in the last 3 weeks, so for those out there that were clamoring for Gardner Minshew to start, they may have scored 1,000,000 points, but in his 3 weeks little stint here, he has 10 turnovers. The Colts are 0-3. And then when you
Yeah.
want to point all of the fingers at Garner Minshew, by the way, he had one turnover today. Hey, that's a step in the right direction for him. I just want to point out in the last 3 weeks, the Colts defense has given up 37 or more points each of the last 3 weeks. And after the game today, I immediately was like, I got to go look at the stats because I don't
Yeah.
know that I don't know that it's the offense. And this tells me like, okay, Shane Steichen is a great offensive minded head coach. And then I went and looked at the defense and I was like, oh no, middling in pass rush. So we're not really generating that much of a pass rush.
Yeah, I know.
And then one of the worst teams in terms of like allowing touchdowns, like bottom 3 in the league. Um, and it's not all they're getting thrown on in the end zone. It's just they're getting thrown on to get down there. But the Colts defense has given up 14 rushing touchdowns, which is a ton. Yeah, given that like most of the league has allowed half of that or less. So I found that
Yeah.
particularly striking. But like you were saying before we got started, like we're down half of the cornerback room anyway. So these are your fifth and sixth guys that are just
Yeah.
being asked to
They're not
step
your
up
first. Yeah.
so that the team doesn't have to make additional transaction and bring additional guys in that are practice squad or otherwise, right? Because that's a big thing. You bringing in a guy to strictly play corner for you. He's probably not helping you on special teams,
Nah.
right? And so that's the trouble. Um, is you have to have your cornerback and safety room right before the season starts. And largely got to hope that those guys stay together. Those are your athletes versus their athletes, right? Um, so yeah, a lot of people going into this game, it was kind of crazy. It's like people put blinders on. Like, oh, the Colts are the only team in the NFL whose offense has scored more than 20 points a game. And I'm like, well, isn't it because they kind of gotta? And then you look and it's like, okay, yeah, 37 plus in the last 3 games, 10 turnovers from your quarterback in that time frame. Uh, to say the Colts are missing Anthony Richardson,
Yeah, it would be an
right?
understatement. Yeah.
That would be an understatement. And then also, it's not necessarily the Colts are getting run all over, but that that lack of a pass rush.
Yeah, the lack
Uh,
of a pass rush and just watching the team, you can tell that they never seem to be able to get that stop where they really need it, where you're like, hey, you gotta get it now. And
Yeah,
they allow, like,
like
it's just,
situational.
yeah, situational football. The other team is scoring at right at the worst times they can score. And just when it reminds me a bit of last season where the offense and the defense, they don't play complementary football. Like, suddenly, the defense gets a stop and forces a turnover or stuff like that, and then the offense goes right out there, and Minshew throws a stupid interception, and you're
Yeah,
like, hey, back at it again. And that kills you as a football team. That's not great, because and it kills perhaps the defensive morale, where you're like, hey,
yeah.
we're busting our asses off. We get the interception for you to put this game out of reach. We were up double digits, and then
And I
Minshew
think
goes out, and he doesn't get it, and that's what's killing you, in my opinion, also.
no, I'm with you 100%. Um, Nick Saban was on Pat McAfee's show this past week, and Pat was talking to him about, you know, there's such a microscope on this Alabama program. How do you get your players to consistently play at a high level when they're being evaluated as like the best football players in college? And every team that you're playing against, they have to give you their best effort. They're really trying to beat you every time you go out because you're so good. Like, how do you? And one of the things that Nick Saban pointed out, and this does relate to the Colts, so I'm getting there. I'm just taking a while. Okay. But what Nick was saying was, coach was saying was, I try to get them to understand that um, these outside factors can't impact your personal performance. Like,
Yeah,
whatever you were gonna supposed to do this play, you've got to do your job and not worry about external factors because there are so many and you can't control them. So all you can do is manage your effort. Well, what I've noticed, and I will point fingers and I will hold players accountable and say, because of you, Shaq Leonard, I feel like there's sort of this lack of accountability, um, and more of a uh, when that guy lets us down, then our play goes poorly. Now we're playing down to the opponent. Um, we're very much our team very much affected by every other person and what they do, right?
yeah,
Colts go out, go 3 and out, punt. Defense more often than not holds their own. But after your
yeah.
offense
That's fair to
punts for
say.
like the
Yeah,
third or fourth time, the defense is tired now. And now instead of just going to the point of exhaustion, they just let up and let that go right by it. Guy go right by him. Oh, there's that long run that kind of breaks your parity for you. I again when I watch football, I'm like, oh, this is a conditioning battle, and somebody's losing the conditioning battle, or this was a battle that started in the weight room, and this team is losing the weight room battle.
yeah,
The Colts lost today because they're tanking, and the primary reason I'm like, you can visibly see that they're tanking. The Colts have a quarterback that has turned the ball over 10 times in 3 weeks, and have they signed another quarterback? Brought
nah,
someone in?
nah.
Okay,
Yeah, they're
no.
going with.
Okay. They're going with Gardner Minshew no matter what he does. That's not good. And then today, I thought Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss were toting the rock, son. I thought they were
Yeah,
doing their
yeah. They were
thing.
getting their due. Yeah,
And I don't think either of them boys went into concussion protocol or otherwise pulled themselves out of the contest, but had
nah.
6 combined rushes in the second half of that game. And that right there makes me think, are they saving them? Like,
Right.
because I can't think of another reason why, especially in a 1 point game at halftime. Keep that in mind too, kids. Colts were down by 1 point at halftime, and their run game was effective. And the whole second half, the running backs got the ball 6 times.
Yeah,
So I really don't know what what games the remainder of the season that the Colts have any hope of winning, with the exception of against the
yeah. We talked about
literally
it. Yeah,
at the Panthers. who just
Perhaps,
won
the
their first
Patriots.
game, maybe the Patriots, and literally basically their next 3 games, or three of their next 4. That Bucks game, I don't think that's nearly the cupcake that everybody thinks that is. So I don't know if that's a winnable contest. But I think like potentially the Titans, if it's like Will Levis, he's a rookie. That's the only reason I'm saying you could beat a rookie is because like he's gonna make rookie mistakes, right? Although he
Yeah,
looked like a world beater today, right? Otherwise, I honestly do not believe that this team's better than last year's team now at this point. No Grover Stewart, no Anthony Richardson, right? So like minus QB1 and your zero technique, like with mounting injuries, right? Like Braden
yeah,
Smith missed today, and I'm sure that was gonna happen, right? But I'm just saying, like, that's another starting offensive lineman, top 7 most important people on your team.
yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah, it's the front side tackle. Um, to a right-handed quarterback. So yeah, I don't know what anyone else's expectation was when your backup, like, keep in mind, like, I like Gardner Minshew, and Anthony Richardson outplayed him and was a starter. So like there's a step down, a noticeable step down between Gardner Minshew and his impact on a football game and Anthony Richardson his impact on a football game. That kind of goes without saying. Um, but the thing I have noticed, and you got to give credit and props too, the offensive line's been balling out. Your
Yeah,
running
they've been
back
better.
room's
Yeah,
balling out. Your wide receiver room's balling out. These guys are coming to play. It's just unfortunate that I hate losing at home, right? Because you always want to be like, oh, it was a road game,
yeah,
so
and
it's a
losing
tough
so much.
environment.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, no, no, you lost this game, the last 2 games at home to the
yeah, and those are
Browns.
two. Yeah, and those are two. Very. Those are
Middling.
games where you're kind of, yeah. You say like, hey, you should be able to win. At least perhaps one of those.
Yeah.
And I get it if you drop one. You're dealing with a ton of injuries. It's not great, but you have to be able to win. At least one of those. It just sucks so much losing both of them.
Yeah.
Especially after you beat the Titans, you suddenly look you look so well. Gardner Minshew, he when stepping in for Anthony Richardson, he did not look nearly as bad as he is perhaps right now.
Hmm.
I mean, I remember, there was a time where we were saying like, "Hey, this guy might be good enough to take us into the playoffs."
Yeah.
And
Too
now we're
small
saying
sample
like,
size.
"Hey,
We
yeah,
were
yeah,
getting
we were,
excited over limited
yeah, we were,
numbers.
we were getting perhaps a bit over our heads on that one." It's safe to say we might have rushed a bit on that one, but at least not for us to be discussing like saying, "Hey, Gardner Minshew might not even like he's a great backup. He's getting exposed so far. Like he's ruining his chances of ever being a starter for a different team.
Yeah.
His ceiling right now, if you ask me, it's like, hey, he might be better served next season staying with the Colts and saying, hey, if Anthony Richardson happens to go down or miss a quarter or 2 quarters of a game, he can come in and help steady the ship. But if he has to start, for more than 3 consecutive games, then you're basically screwed. Like there's no way you're being competitive.
No. And the thing about it was when we was looking at this a couple weeks ago, we were saying like, oh, the Colts could win, 6, 7 of these games, and you could really
Yeah,
no, now I'm thinking like you might win one of the last 5 games of the year, and then that really we're talking about if the next 4 then. And I think you've got a chance to win a game or two. I honestly maybe one game, maybe a half game better. Maybe they win 5 games this year. If we're
yeah,
just being realistic. And the good news is, kind of goes out saying, hey, if you're not challenging for your division and trying to get into the playoffs, you kind of want to be picking at the top of the draft, right?
Yeah,
Because you kind of want the best player that you can get. Um, I think it's pretty safe to say the Colts need corner help.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a that's not a
You know what I mean? That's
controversial
not crazy. That's
statement
not
for you to
crazy.
make.
That's not
Yeah,
controversial at all. It's
I don't think anyone is going to come in here and say, "Hey, you're wrong." I'm happy with Tony Brown going going as our
just
cornerback
getting
going forward.
scapegoated
And if
all night
someone, yeah,
long. That was the worst.
again, sorry for that. It probably sucks for him. He's not a cornerback. I mean, he's a special teams player. Like he shouldn't be playing cornerback. He's getting exposure because that's not what he's here for. He's here to play special teams. That's what he's good at.
Yeah.
He's not good playing cornerback. So it's probably, not playing him there is probably not a good idea. You need to get, a couple of guys there. And on the other hand, I think if we trying to look, at the bright side,
Yeah.
Jalen Jones he looks really good. I mean, he did not look out of place today. So that's a positive. He was a seventh round pick.
Yeah, he was out of Texas
So
A&M. And by
yeah,
the way, Jonathan Taylor hit 4,000 yards in his rushing career today. And yeah, that's a big thing for me is just like in the second half, only 6 carries. It was a one
yeah,
point game
just
at halftime. What happened? And Shane Steichen said we ran into a bunch of good passing opportunities, and that tells me that they started a series with a run, ended up in a long yardage situation, had a pass, neither punted or just went into their pass offense the rest of their possession. You know what I mean? Like they literally one run per drive. Because you think about how many possessions per half, roughly six is, yeah, about three a quarter.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, obviously I'm not surprised. The last time we recorded a podcast, I did say like I'd be surprised you win any of these games, but it's real hard to win without your quarterback and without the guy standing in the middle on defense. You demanding a double team,
yeah,
right? So I think that said, this is a two sport podcast, and the Indiana Pacers
yeah. Now on the bright side, now
on the
going
bright
to the
side
good
of
stuff.
things are 2-0. Okay.
Leading the conference right now. I know it's just 2 games. I know what I'm saying, and it's just kidding. But we are number one, baby. Like it's so far, we are number one.
Yeah, highest scoring team in the league. And then as far as defense, because I always look like how are they for allowing scorers? Pretty bad. So
Yeah,
and they're I mean, but they're winning by 17 and a half points, and there's really nobody else.
they're blowing by teams. I saw the games, and they play like so damn
They're
fast.
really
It's
three
like
dependent.
yeah, but you
Uh,
you know you go and get a drink, and you miss probably like 5 or 10 5 or 10 baskets. It's impossible to keep up.
Yeah, I mean they run
Entertaining.
the floor. They're getting production. Bruce Brown has been a blessing.
Yeah, Bruce Brown has,
Um,
yeah.
Nesmith turned out to be like what a
Yeah,
re-signing. Like
and we
he comes
got
out the
him, and we
next
got him
game.
on cheap. That's paying that for a guy that can play three positions. Perhaps he can defend, he can shoot. I mean, that's dirt cheap. You're just paying, what is it, like 11 million a year,
Yeah,
something like that, like 10 million a year. So at least we might not have the Colts, but we do have the Pacers.
right, right. We did get um a very rare trade is really what happened. If you really want to talk about what happened to the Pacers, uh, why are they so good? They got Tyrese Halliburton in that Demonis Sabonis trade. They're only paying Tyrese Halliburton like 5.8 mil a year.
Yeah, this
Uh,
year
your
he
all
already
star
signed. Yeah,
your all
he
star
already signed the
guard.
extension.
You're not paying him $1 zillion this year.
At
Um,
least this year, yeah.
and yeah, it's a nice time to be a Pacers fan because it's been a long time since I felt like the Pacers had any
The
chance of
Pacers,
making the
yeah.
playoffs. And I'm gonna keep beating that drum. Last year, or not last year, 2 years ago, I think the Colts or Pacers won like 27 games, and
Yeah.
then they basically won like 10 more games this past year, so 35, 36 wins or whatever, with pretty much the same roster. I mean, yes, they made that trade I alluded to, right? So, but Halliburton didn't play that many games. That's the whole point. Is like most of the people on this team were here last year. Um, and I think that with the sort of youth infusion that they've got, where they've got a bunch of new young blood, um, they have that chance to take that little step forward. And it looks like to me, uh, everyone can shoot. Everyone's on the floor as a shooter.
Yeah.
Um, and that is going to put some people on their butt, and put butts in the seat to go watch when everyone is able to score from all over the floor. It makes you so much more interesting to watch, um, because a lot of teams, you got two people on the floor that are
Yeah, two
doing
people at
nothing but
most.
layups
Yeah.
and dunks. That's it. You might have a couple shooters and then a point guard, right? But with the Pacers, I honestly feel like anybody lets it go from three, and you're like, okay, like
Yeah, am I
you can
going?
hit it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that having a veteran like Miles Turner, who is a center who also can step out and shoot, kind of sets the floor for everybody else. They got to be able to shoot. Just gives the big guy, hell, we might as well just give it to him, right? Um, and I do also got to eat crow when it's appropriate to eat. At the end of last season, people were confronting me on social media saying like, because I was convinced that Buddy Hield was a starter and that somebody else was going to have to move around and that it needed to be
Yeah.
him, Halliburton, Matherin, and then whoever you want, big guys. And then a bunch of people were telling me like, no, Matherin is the man to replace Buddy Hield, and Buddy Hield's going to be coming off the bench. And I was like, no, 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 like he makes too many 3 pointers, right? Like to be a bench player, like he's too useful, and he's not a starter. So I was
Yeah.
wrong, and that's okay. It's okay. And
Yeah.
then why? Yeah, it's okay to be wrong, man. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing.
News flash,
Uh,
you're not gonna be right every single
not gonna be
time.
right every single time. That'd be kind of fucking obnoxious. I'm not gonna lie to you. But instead, he's come off the bench and been really useful. And so it's like I don't feel bad for being wrong because Matherin's playing out of his mind, and then
Yeah,
Buddy Hield's
yeah.
coming off the bench doing just fine. Um, and they got a
It's
lot of
those
guys that can
times where you're
score.
like, you're happy you're wrong. You're like, hey, I'm not mad, I'm
I
really,
try to pick
really
them like
happy that,
that.
yeah,
I try to pick them like that. Try to, but I noticed after the Cleveland Cavaliers game, because that was a good game because the Cavs are supposed to be good. Um, I see they had three players with 20 or more points. Yeah, Halliburton, Turner, and Nesmith, all 20 or more points.
yeah,
Um, I guess that isn't saying much because Mobley, Levert, Struess. Anyway, whatever. They had one, two, three, four, five, six players in double figures. That's a ton. And they shoot they're a little more three dependent, and as a result, if you're 20% more of your shots are 3-point shots and you make the same percentage, you also hit more 3-pointers.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, but yeah, it's a fun time to be a Pacers fan because we've been on the other end of this.
yeah, for
Uh,
quite some time now. I mean, at
it
least last
feels
year
like
we
since
had,
the Malice in a Palace, right? It honestly feels like the Pacers have just been getting
yeah,
beat up on, man.
we had the little oasis with the PG era and that number one team. I was just talking about it with my friends. We were remembering that, that 16 and one star in that 13-14 season where the Pacers were like killing everyone. And then, do you remember, like Danny Granger trade for Evan Turner? And it
Mm,
basically all went to shit there.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, since at least since then, because we endured some tough years after that. After PG left, and then we thought it was, Victor Oladipo was supposed to be, the next man up, and he also, he suffered a horrific injury, and now he's on the Heat, and he left, and then Sabonis was supposed to be the guy, and he left. So now, having, you know, Tyrese signed that extension, so I'm not worried about him leaving yet.
Right.
Hopefully, crossing fingers.
Mm. But yeah, the Pacers, let's see here. I believe tomorrow. Yeah, Monday night. So yeah, Pacers play tomorrow at home against the Bulls.
Yeah,
Let's look at the Bulls because that's a team. The
they're
only
not
thing
doing
about
that
them,
that well, right?
uh, one lost one. But the thing that I want to point out about the Bulls, okay, and it's a joke among other professional athletes, is when there's a players only meeting, the season's over. Um, the Bulls had a players only meeting after their first game. Now, keep this in mind, they did come out the next game and win. Results don't vary. They lost the next game, so they lost again. So I think the Pacers could very well start off hot here
Yeah,
against I would call a 1-2 team, kind of fledgling. Like I don't know if they're gonna make it or not. Um, you just can't let what's his name beat you.
it's Zach Levine.
No,
Who
he's
is the
going to
one with
beat you.
the?
Alex Caruso. I like to make fun of Caruso. It's funny. But yeah, you can't let Caruso beat you. That he went off in the game that they won. I actually watched and they just kind of let him shoot. And it was just like, we're gonna get beat when you do that. So yeah, I think Pacers are in a good spot to start their season off 3-0. Obviously, this coinciding with the Colts taking a dive, right? It kind of makes it
Yeah,
not feel so bad because you're like, I only got like a couple more months of watching the Colts before it's draft season, baby. And
yeah,
then
back at it again.
yeah, uh-huh. And to be completely honest with you, I was ready for draft season. Like as soon as Anthony Richardson went down, I was like, you know what? I
Yeah,
saw plenty. AR is gonna be just fine. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
yeah, no
Hey, you
worries.
got a
Yeah,
bunch
no
of
worry
other
about it.
holes to fill. Like, hey, let's just fast forward to next year. And along the way, we get to enjoy this Pacers season together, brother. So
Yeah,
I know we didn't record an
finally.
episode last week, so I wanted to finish up talking about this. I figured I'd tell you on my podcast. So I have kept my mouth shut for about the last month. Obviously, I became a high school football coach. I was the coordinator and primary play caller. It's my fault when it went bad because the kids did all right when it went good. Um, but I didn't really know what was going to happen at the end of the year. This is a first year program. This is a school that has only been around like for 4 years.
Yeah,
Um, and they're a charter school, and I'm very, I'm harsh. I wrote articles. I put the school on blast for all the things that they didn't have. Um, and then we had our fall awards ceremony, and I got to meet a bunch of these teachers and administrators at the school. And what I had attributed to malice should just have been attributed to incompetence. Like they're not bad people, they're just kind of dumb.
yeah,
And they'll have to figure it out. But that with that being said though, I was really keeping my mouth shut because I was afraid my head coach had been under a lot of stress over the course of the season. Of course, like the team didn't win. So like I was just kind of keeping my mouth shut. You never know what happens on this awards
yeah.
ceremony. Somebody might get up there, had a little too much sugar, and just let her rip. And then I'm out of a job. What was the point of talking about it, right? But he didn't. He went up there and he was the most eloquent speaker there. Um, really made our football program look good, I think. And then he called me up there and said, I got a gift for you. So I wanted to show that on my podcast. It's like super freaking cool. Just keep in mind, I want to be an NFL head coach, right? And so he
Yeah.
gives me, oh no, you can't see it. Okay, you can kind of see it.
You need to put it, against your body, perhaps. Like
Yeah, so he
here.
gives me,
Yeah, there we go.
okay, he was like, hey, when I first moved to Indiana, I worked for a moving company. And in a back of a truck one day, somebody's like, hey, there's a binder back there, and then picked it up and handed it to him and was like, hey, who's this? So Hamilton, that's
Pep
Pep
Hamilton, yeah.
Hamilton, who was the offensive coordinator for the Colts for a couple seasons. And what's really interesting about it, I'm not gonna like open it up and like go through it or anything. But what it is it's the full Colts playbook, runs and passes, and it has the specific game plan for that week against St. Louis. And it shows like their defensive blitzes and stuff. And he's an OC, right? So it's all offense, and that's kind of my gig.
Yeah, your
Um,
thing, yeah.
but seeing it, and it's 10 years old, so like technology's helped a lot, and it probably changed the type of reports that you would put out. But just having that as like an artifact, like talk about prized possessions. Like a lot of people
Yeah.
have things that like are valuable that they'll like hang on to forever. Men sometimes will buy a Corvette and let it sit in the garage and gather dust. Uh, the first head coach I ever worked for gave me a real live NFL playbook, and I'm pretty sure that's the
Yeah, that's
coolest thing that's
nice.
ever
Yeah.
happened. And he also said, hey, I sent a folder to the athletic director to have him print off certificates, and we are going to sign them and laminate them and give them to everybody. And the
Yeah.
one certificate they didn't print was me thanking you for all of your hard work and offering you assistant head coach for the football team.
Yeah.
Which again, on my list of possible outcomes, wasn't, oh, by the way, I'm promoting you to number two. Um,
Yeah, that's still great. Yeah.
yeah, obviously, I kind of taken aback talking about it. Um, but what it confirmed for me is that we had a fundraiser, right? We did this really neat fundraiser where you could just donate money, or you could buy swag. Like we had t-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. And we also sold like popcorn and jerky. It was a pretty cool little fundraiser. We got a couple $1,000s out of that, and we were just kind of concerned of what to do with the money. That's why I didn't really push it very hard, is because we were kind of concerned of what do we do with the money. Because there was no football bank account, the school just has an athletic program bank account, and you think about you're trying to establish a football program, you wouldn't want to really give the fundraising
Yeah.
money that you earn to your athletic program. That doesn't make sense. It's not what you're trying to do. And I had actually in one of the articles I wrote, brother, one of my readers had posted a comment and said, like, hey man, you just need to start fundraising yourself. Put up a Patreon and GoFundMe, whatever. And I mulled it for a while because I'm like, how the hell do you do that? And then I was talking to my head coach at this awards ceremony about like, hey, I think I'm gonna start streaming in my off time. Um, I am a disabled veteran. I did just refile my claim through the VA with the Wounded Warrior Project. And part of what the Wounded Warrior Project will do is they'll give you a bunch of tools to stream and give you a bunch of attention if you'll
Yeah.
fundraise for them. And I figure you have some big organization like Wounded Warrior Project, and then you're saying like, hey, I have a GoFundMe, a Patreon, and then you could always directly donate. Venmo, Cash App works. Zell it to me if you want. But the idea is uh money equals access.
Yeah.
I'm in a coaching clinic right now at the New York Jets. Like it doesn't get better. I'm receiving the best training available. I can promise you. I can promise you, you can't buy it. I'll go to the Glazier Clinic when it's here. Our school is going to pay for stuff like that. So they're going to make me into the coach that I want to be, right? But the thing I need is I need money to move mountains.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at what you call them because I don't even know what you call them because I'm old and I have forgotten and have been away from the practice field. But we need chutes and blocking sleds. We need helmets and shoulder pads that aren't used. Who's going to buy that? Who's going to supply that? Nobody is the answer to that question. In case somebody's listening to this and they're like, "Oh, the fucking school." No.
Yeah.
No. And in fact, they're going to tell us they spent money on it when they got it donated. That's how it is. Right. And so I was explaining it to my head coach about how it's not affiliated with our football program. It's not affiliated with the school at all. I'm not even going to name the program because if I do, then the money has to go to the school. The money has to go to
Yeah.
their program. No, I want control of the funds so that I can say, hey, we need a 3-man block sled. I'm gonna get
You
us a
can, yeah,
3-man block
you can
sled.
just go, yeah.
Instead of having to wait, raise the money, get it appropriated, I could spend all this time in this off season streaming, raising money for a veteran service organization that helped me. They made my life so much easier, helping me gather the information to refile my claim. And then, and in return, I didn't. It wasn't like a, will you raise money for us if we help you? That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like I don't like owing people, and I feel like
Yeah.
they helped me a great deal. This is kind of the least I could do. Some I was kind of I've tried to stream before, but I didn't feel a purpose. Like I'm just one of those people. I can't do something and for
Yeah.
it be
Unless
for
there's,
nothing,
yeah.
right? And so I don't even know what I don't even know what I'm going to play. I just know that, oh, from now basically until next season starts, I have to come up with, so I got to come up with it myself or I got to raise the money to literally support this football program the way it needs to be supported, right?
Yeah.
By sending these kids to camps for instead of sending me to something, why don't you send these kids to camps, right? And so I'm sorry to go at length there. I just want to make sure I got that in.
Yeah.
I hadn't really said anything because things were kind of, you don't know what, we didn't win a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got beat 50-0 half the time. I don't, I don't know what's coming after that. You know what I mean? For a lot of coaches, you get fired and they replace
Yeah.
you. They find somebody else to do the job. Um, but I think that what we did was the right thing. And so our actions were correct. I would have been blown away if I got fired. Like, what a bunch of idiots. You know what I mean? But like, um, it wouldn't have been outside the realm of possibility or my expectation. Like, okay, like nobody applied to work here while I was
Yeah.
here. So I don't know where you're getting your candidates at. Uh, but yeah, uh, it feels good to be ultimately acknowledged, right? Anytime you get
Yeah. Always.
promoted,
Yeah.
that is the ultimate acknowledgement. Um, and I'm obviously humbled, and I plan to work. And the head coach was funny because he said, "You're talking about money. Uh, you being the assistant head coach should get you like $5 more thousand." And then I was like, "Right, but we need 50." Right?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like we need like $50,000, bro, that we could just do whatever that we want with. We need uniforms, multiple uniforms. That needs to be a strong suit of our football team. Is man, every week their helmets are painted different. They got a different uniform on. Man, that's cool. I want
Yeah.
to go there. You're appealing to children, right? Unis, right? We need to clean up that field. It needs to look better. It needs to be painted brighter. You know what I mean? To get a brighter white.
Yeah. It makes,
You know,
yeah.
repaint the field goal posts because they're rusted out. You know what I mean? Like we need a new scoreboard, right? Is the school gonna raise that and do that? No.
No.
There's a whole list of things that like need to be done to raise the bar around this program that I'm affiliated with, and it isn't gonna happen if I don't literally get out there and do it myself, right? So I'm putting everyone on notice that I know, like I'm gonna be a lot more obnoxious and be a lot more online because I need to support this program, and the good news is the money will follow me. So no matter what happens at this program, who knows what happens that's how I should just leave it at that. Who knows what will happen in the future? But I know we're going to 11 man in the fall, right? I know I need to do a lot better job of reaching out to local businesses around the school and asking them for their marketing dollars because that'll help. And then we'll see what happens. But basically, if you're, I've learned this, if you're not fundraising, you're not a coach
Yeah, yeah,
because you aren't doing the most important thing. And like, I think about it all the time. What would have happened if I lost the gas card? I think about that. Like, we had to stop for gas twice on these away games. And we got lucky that the school had a gas card for us. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I had no contingency plan. What was I going to collect money from the kids? You
nah,
know what I
yeah,
mean? So it's like, man, you got to have money just sitting. Hey, we got out of a game late. We had to stop for pizza. You know what I mean? So these kids are getting fed because that's the one thing that I've learned in this. Everybody thinks that when you become a football coach, it's about the offense you're going to run or the defense you're going to run and how you're going to teach it. That isn't how you win football games. That's at the bottom of this inverted pyramid. Like the bigger thing is you got to get them to realize how violent this game is and how life is like this. And you've got to work really hard when no one's watching so that you can perform when they are, right? And
yeah,
that isn't at all uh, what I think the kids have an image of football when they get into it, right? When they get into it, they think it's all bright lights and it's all highlight catches. And it's like, no, that happened because we had to have it. Does that make sense?
yeah,
So anyway, this has been the Coltist, your Indianapolis Colts, Indiana Pacers podcast. Again, season 2, brother. Episode 7, about this Colts defense.
yeah,
Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of the games. We'll see you after next week's game.
yeah. See you next week.